You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB. Football Fever with Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen.
Welcome back to Football Fever with Bonnie Jansen and Jason Pine, the podcast that covers all things New Zealand football, from the Wellington Phoenix men's and women's teams in the A-League to Kiwi footballers overseas. We're without ZB's football legend Jason Pine this week, so we've called in the New Zealand Herald's chief football writer Michael Burgess. Michael, welcome back.
Thank you, Bonnie. Good to be back.
We'll start with the Wellington Phoenix Women who played over the weekend. They suffered a 1-0 loss to the Central Coast Mariners across the ditch. Couldn't go for 4 from 4. What did you make of this game?
It was an interesting game. The first thing you'd say is the wind was pretty crazy, so it wasn't too different to playing in Wellington. Actually, there's a breeze just blowing across the ground, which really affected especially the Phoenix in the first half. But I think we saw a couple of things. We saw a team that realised, okay, the Phoenix are going to try and play a lot. We're going to really press them. The Mariners pressed really high. It was quite effective, which made it quite hard for the Phoenix to do what they like to do. What I liked about the Phoenix, though, is they kept trying. They kept, because it's a learning process. 5 games, they're trying to play this completely new way of playing. And they stuck at it, knowing that they've got to stick with it for the season. There's no point, trying to be more direct and everything else. They've got faith in what they're doing. But it's hard. It's hard to play that way. And they just weren't quite as effective, so they were quite limited in terms of creating chances. They limited to mostly long-range shots. And as Paul Temple, the coach, said, the Mariners were probably the better team and deserved the result.
There was some promising signs from the Knicks chicks, as I like to call them. They had a good share of the possession, 61%, and also a good amount of shots on goal. Is that promising?
Yeah, it is. That is promising, and that's the thing. Because if they're learning to dominate possession, then in the long term, you're going to win games. Whereas the previous 2 seasons they've struggled to keep the ball, and they've been under pressure for long periods. This is a new era, a new style of playing. It is very promising. They did have a lot of shots, as you say, but most of them were sort of speculators from outside the box. They couldn't create those chances inside the area that they really needed. But it's a learning process.
And of course, the Wellington Phoenix men and women have their double header in Auckland this weekend. It's good to have the Knicks up here again. It might be the last time that they'll have an Auckland crowd, in fact, behind them, because we do know that an Auckland A-League team is well on the way. Yeah,
that is exciting. You can't wait for that possibility, because I reckon the Auckland-Wellington rivalry will be bigger than anything else in this country. I think it's bigger than a rugby rivalry, for example, Blues Hurricanes, but that's for a future matter. But can't wait for Saturday to have both teams playing doubleheader, also at Mount Smart, which I think is a great venue if you get, say, 20,000. It's fantastic atmosphere. You're close to as you know, Bonnie, you're close to the field. And probably the best thing of all, it's coming at a time when both teams are going well, and that's always what you want when you're coming, because they only come to Auckland a couple of times a year. So the timing is just right. We just got to hope the weather is just right.
Exactly right. And the men kick off at 4:30 p.m. against Melbourne City, while the women are a little bit later against Perth Glory at 7:15. We look forward to that one up in Auckland. Now we'll head to the All Whites, who went 2-0 down to Greece. I'm assuming you watched that game, Michael Burgess. What did you think of it?
It was a funny one. I think our expectations of the All Whites have gone up quite a bit. The last 3 years, they've got all these new young players. They play a very different style to what we're used to in the past. So we expect a lot more of them. Because losing to Greece is no disgrace. Losing 2-0 to Greece could be 3-0. I mean, they're 46 in the world. They're a good team. They wasn't so long ago they lost to France 1-0 in Paris. I mean, bloody hell, that is tough. But I felt the All Whites were a bit below the standards they've set in recent times. They weren't quite at the level we would like to see, especially defensively, quite loose, a couple of sloppy goals, a few other chances given up. So that's something to work on. And the midfield with the ball, they didn't quite impose themselves like we've seen from guys like Marko Stamenic, Matt Garbutt, Joe Bell. They just weren't quite where they can be.
Is it worrying how the All Whites are playing at the moment? And we're heading into kind of those Olympics and World Cup cycles?
I wouldn't say it's worrying. I mean, they've got a very deliberate plan. They're trying to play big teams. They could play teams ranked around in the 80s, 90s and the 110s and bank some wins, but they're trying to, if you look at who they've played, they played Sweden, they played Greece, they're playing Ireland, Republic of Ireland on Wednesday. They've really tried to find big teams to play. And historically, New Zealand don't win these games. I think in our whole history, we've beaten European teams about 3 times. Someone will write in and say I was wrong, but it's 2 or 3 times, so it doesn't happen much. So the idea is to improve, similar to what the Football Ferns did before the World Cup. Play tough teams and improve. But to your question, what we do want to see is improvement. So we want to see the quality rising so they get to a different level. So no, there's not immediate concerns about next year, but you want to see them going in a certain direction.
Yeah, I just want to ask about that because I agree. I see it on both the men's and women's side in New Zealand are playing harder opponents than maybe we would like. And I guess for fans, we want to see them bank some wins. Do you think maybe they should be playing teams kind of more on par with them?
Yeah, it's such a quandary because there is an argument for that because people like us and football fans who love their football, they kind of get it and they don't mind. They see, they're playing big teams, so we don't expect the result. But the average punter just sees the All Whites losing or the Ferns losing and wonders what's going on with this team. So do you play some teams at more your level in the Middle East or Asia or something, or do you do what the All Whites are doing, what the Ferns are doing to a degree? I like the approach because what really matters is what the Ferns do at the Olympics next year and what the All Whites do in 2026, and the time to really, really build is now. So that's what matters the most. But it is always a tough equation.
Obviously, their performance against Greece was a little bit underwhelming, but any players or any particular way in which they were playing excite you?
I was just really impressed with Tyler Bindon, the son of Jenny Bindon, who for a long time was the Football Ferns goalkeeper. He's come in 18 years old, second international. He starts in defence against Greece and Athens and went really well. Under a lot of pressure, the team, as I said before, were defensively loose, so they were the back four. It's really hard for the back four. Playing alongside Tommy Smith, they've probably trained together twice, and he really showed why people are talking about him. Another one I'd mention would be Libby Kikache. On a night when quite a few of his teammates didn't perform to the level they can, he did. He's someone who just about every game is a 7, 8, 9 out of 10, and he showed his quality again, and he's starting again in Serie A, so it's pretty cool, and he showed that he is a special player, and yeah, when you talk about excited, he's a guy you get excited about.
And looking into their match on Wednesday morning against Ireland, what do you hope to see out of the All Whites?
Well, the first thing I hope to see is a crowd, which would be great, because I think the thing about Saturday, Bonnie, was just watching that game. I felt, you know what it's like as a player. We've all played different levels, obviously, but it's really exciting. You go to an away game or something and there's supporters getting on your case, but it actually lifts you, and especially international level. So to have that game in Athens and there was no one there, that's actually really hard for players, I think. So the All Whites against Ireland, there should be, the last time they played in Dublin, they got 20,000 fans there. So that'd be fantastic. That's the first thing to see. And then in terms of the All Whites, they've just got to be a bit more solid defensively. They've gotten this pattern of conceding some really soft goals, a couple of soft goals against Sweden, soft goal against Greece. There's sort of been a pattern emerging there, so they really want to fix that. And then with the ball, it's sort of the same story in terms of a bit more cutting edge up front, which is the hardest thing to do in football. We all talk about it, but it is the hardest thing. You know, every team from the Premier League down, that's what they want to do, is create more chances. But what I would like to see particularly is they've got to get more out of Chris Wood in terms of, you've got one of the best finishers this country has ever had. So he's so good in the air. He's good with both feet. He's got a natural instinct. So make sure that he's getting some chances in the game. Those crosses are coming across. He's getting to be in the area and make the most of his abilities. That's, I think, would be great to see. And Sarpreet Singh is a guy that can unlock that. He came back on Saturday against Greece, so Sarpreet will be better for the run. So if those two can combine, then it could be really good.
And so the All Whites will meet Ireland on Wednesday at 8:45 in the morning.
This is Football Fever.
And the Football Ferns have just been named today, their squad to take on Colombia early in December. What did you make of the team, the 24-strong team?
Well, as we talked about, Bonnie, last week, starting the Macy Fraser podcast, we can officially start it because she is there. And that was one of the cool things to see. As we talked about last week, the fact that she's been named, and you just hope that she actually gets I guess you just hope that we're all patient. We don't expect her to perform miracles in the international stage straight away, but we hope she gets some time in the squad over the next few years, and then she could be real. She's got the talent, so there's no issue there. She's just got to learn what it's like at that level. She just needs time. So it's great to see her there, as well as a couple of other new faces. And it's actually, as far as Football Ferns squads go, it's quite an interesting one, isn't it? There's quite a few talking points. Normally these squads come out, Bonnie, and we're sitting in the office and it's fairly predictable. But this one, there's actually quite a few aspects to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think for me, at first view, Hannah Wilkinson obviously missing because of her 2-match suspension for making contact with a sideline official in their September series against Chile. But for me, it's presented an opportunity, right? We're seeing some new faces come in. We're seeing the likes of Hannah Blake, who missed out on that World Cup squad earlier this year, absolutely playing out of her skin in the A-League for Adelaide at the moment. Same with Grace Jarley, who missed out on some good minutes, and she's also performing. So I think there's going to be an opportunity here, right, for those to compete with Hannah's spot.
Well, we talked about this during the Women's World Cup, Bonnie, when both of us were a little bit, I remember these conversations with you, both of us, a bit mystified about Grace Jarley not getting a bit more time up front, because she seems to me to have so many attributes. Technically good, she's got pace, she's not a bad finisher. Probably the only thing is she needs to develop more of a physical edge to her game, but definitely she's the one. She's going to, I'm sure, get some time against Colombia. The only shame for me, of course, is that Millie Clegg is injured, because this would be a great chance as well for her to get game time with the Ferns. But yeah, with Millie Clegg injured, with Wilkinson suspended, with Gabby Rennie not available due to university studies, there will be an interesting look to the Ferns up front, and also an interesting look in their backline too. Yeah,
I was just going to mention CJ Bott has been left off the squad for an unidentified reason. You and I have discussed this. She's arguably one of the strongest players in the team. For me, if not the strongest. What do you think about this? We don't really know the reason why. There's something happened there, but she is left off. Is this interesting?
Well, I tell you what. I tell you who will be steaming about this, apart from, CJ's parents and a few other people, Jason Pine, because she was at the top of his power rankings last time. And it's not just because she's from Tawa, although that does play a part. But no, she is in the top, 2 or 3 players. The way she's performed over the last year or so at Leicester and for the Ferns. So this is unusual, and it's a surprise. I did not see it coming, and it's something that's got to be fixed. Like, it's on one level, it's not a big deal for her to miss this window. Maybe she needs some time out anyway, and just to refresh. It's December. It's not a big deal, but it's not something you want to see dragging on. She's not the kind of player that's easy to replace or you can do without.
Absolutely, and of course we've got, the Olympics coming up midway through next year. There's, I don't think, many camps along, between only 2 or 3, including this one in December. So, hopefully whatever has happened here is sorted, and we see her in Paris. But for you, Burge, what do you hope to see out of the Ferns? It'll be their second tour since their record-breaking World Cup. We know that they could probably be performing at maybe a step up. They're taking on Colombia, however, who will be tough opponents. What do you hope to see out of this camp?
Well, I thought the performances in Chile were a bit disappointing. They weren't at the level we saw at the World Cup. And as you say, Colombia are bloody good. I mean, they were so good at the World Cup, made the quarterfinals, such an exciting team. Some of the goals they got, some of the individual talents, they're just amazing. And I've been to Colombia. They are so passionate about football. They're nuts about football. There'll be big crowds there. It's going to be fantastic. 2 games in Bogota. But I think the Ferns were a bit flat. I reckon I hope it was that sort of post-tournament hangover, because it's hard to go from, that to this. I think they'll be better, and they'll have to be. But if they could combine the offensive play we saw against Norway with the defensive effort we saw against Switzerland, that is the basis of a good team. So they've got it there, especially the young players. And the second part of your question I'd like to see, and I'm sure you're the same, I'd love to see a lot of the younger players get a chance to show what they can do.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's all very exciting for both the All Whites and the Football Ferns, who are heading into kind of these 2 very important cycles in the next 12 months or so. So thank you for joining us on this podcast, Michael Burgess. Jason Pine will be back next week. We'll catch you next week.
Football Fever. For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday, or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.